as we're talking about attachment, but how does this play in the church? If a place you should have more of an attachment, it should be, I mean, within your immediate family, but even in the church. And that some ways forms its own, I don't want to say supersedes, but spiritually brings a connection that has not been there before.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get people to see and acknowledge that? Because what most people think is, I want to get them to Jesus, get them to embrace Jesus, get them to receive Jesus, and that's it. It's all I needed to do. And then we go into what Marcus Warner calls the ABCs: academic training, behavior modification, church activities.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is that there's so much more that's intricate, that's there relationally, and our attachment, how we go about community, even as we've talked previously about singing to one another.
Yeah.
There's that idea about it and that embodiment aspect. Knowing that attachment and embodiment has such a huge role in our formation, especially going into enemy mode. How do we deal, or how do we help other people see the power of attachment and the necessity of embodiment?
To me, the practical question, is that we should tell them about the things that have changed our own lives. The only thing that really has a real impact on other people is sharing the things that are changing us. And the problem that the typical church has is we're actually sharing whether we have similar beliefs or not. And so we talk about often as something like my faith community, which are the people, other people believe the same things I do. There's nothing particularly about having the similar beliefs that's going to make any attachment between us. It's like, oh, that's good. I'm glad you believe those things too. Might make for some interesting conversation. Somebody comes along and says to me, I know a lot about the brain. I'll look at them like, okay, well, that doesn't make us kin. Might even make us antagonists for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing happens in church. So we all believe the same thing, which in many ways, I think, summarize the American church. It's good to be good and nice to be nice would be the main core of our relational beliefs. But what kind of attachment does that produce? And the answer is almost nothing. So how are we going to actually form an attachment with other people? And that is, we are going to have to care about the life that's growing inside them and do something to nurture that, which is probably closer to what it means to make disciples. But if we're just making disciples, means we're going to teach other people our core beliefs. We've not invested in their life particularly. We just made sure they've got the right core beliefs, which go into the non-relational part of our brain. It doesn't really cause much transformation. But if I'm going to share with you the struggles you have trying to be a Christian and trying to experience God when you're upset, which of course we don't do because we're all sitting there looking at the front and the band is pretty good. And, we feel like that was a powerful experience, which by itself doesn't particularly attach us to anybody, although we might like the band. If we're going to share what makes it, what are the times that you really have to focus, let's say, it's probably the best word, focus, in order to find out where's God and what is he doing right now? That sort of transcendent view of what's happening. In those moments, then we weep with those that weep, we rejoice with those that are rejoicing. We're actually going to build some connection with each other, in which even our minds are going to care about what's happening to you. Want to see you again. And we're getting closer to what Paul uses as his test for having good theology. He said, when I could stand it no longer, we've been apart too long, I sent Timothy to find out how you were doing. And when I heard the great affection you had for me, I knew your faith was good. So that's his theological test for people who have not apostatized. They have great affection for him. A test that I don't remember having ever seen used in my entire, 70 years being around the church.